Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to plunge into big ideas, bring you the core stuff so, you're not just informed, you really get it. Today, we're embarking on a really fascinating journey. It's into something called holoquibism and hyperclassical art. And this isn't just like another art movement. It's described as an entirely new aesthetic paradigm. It comes from Philip Lillian at the Holonomics Institute, and it promises to redefine art, not just something we look at, but something that actively reshapes our reality. So our mission today, to really unpack this unique, almost scientific take on art and figure out what it all means.
Indeed. And what's really striking, I think, is how Lillian frames it, an art science meta-paradigm. It suggests a pretty fundamental shift in how we think about space, art, perception itself. It's saying art isn't just, decoration. It's literally cosmic architecture.
Cosmic architecture. I mean, that's the phrase that grabs you, doesn't it? So let's ground this a bit. Maybe start with art history. We all know Cubism, right? Early 20th century. Famously fractured forms showing multiple perspectives at once. A huge break from tradition. But then the sources suggest postmodern art it exhausted representation. It didn't really offer a reconstituted coherence, leading to this sense of fragmentation, maybe. Driftness.
Exactly. And holoquibism is positioned as the necessary next evolution from that. The aim is apparently to complete cubism, extending it from just analyzing form to actually generating coherence principles. So the art surface, the canvas, it's not treated as just flat anymore. It's seen as a dimensional projector, like a gateway almost.
Okay, a dimensional projector. That's a key difference. So not about what the art shows or symbolizes in the usual sense. It's about something more fundamental. The appearance of principle via coherence modulation. What does that actually mean, though? Principle appearing. It sounds like art stops being just reflective, showing us stuff, and becomes operative. It actively does something.
Right. And that raises a question. How does this compare to, say, visionary art? Visionary art typically depicts higher realities, right? Often based on the artist's own inner experience, very subjective. Hyperclassical art, though, claims to render principles directly, not as symbols, but as active coherent structures, principle as form. So it might feel visionary in its effect, what it produces in you, but it's engineered in cause. It's built intentionally to have that effect.
Engineered in cause. That really highlights the design aspect. And speaking of engineering, I mean, listen to these claims in the paradigm. They're pretty wild. Mass is condensed information. Okay. Color is holodimensional coherence routing, like traffic control for coherence, and form is vectorized space. I mean, you take that seriously, our whole understanding of solid stuff, color, shape, it gets flipped. It suggests they're all just information and energy patterns, and art can somehow interact with that coding. Now, to really get our heads around how this art is supposed to work, we need to understand the stage it plays on. It's not just the gallery wall. Holoquibism apparently operates across 4 fundamental spaces. And these are described as real ontological domains, not just metaphors.
That's right. It's crucial. Let's break them down. First, you've got material space. That's the familiar world.
Yeah.
Entropic, measurable, objects, canvas, paint, the base layer, the physical stuff. Then second, there's subjective space. That's your inner world, your experiential, affective, cognitive space, your feelings, thoughts. And the key idea here is that your space is reorganizable by the art. It's the target domain where the coherence gets transferred to.
Okay, so physical world, inner world, familiar enough. But then it gets deeper, right? Holoquibism posits 2 more levels of reality that this art taps into. And this is where it really stretches the mind.
It really does. So third is real space, or sometimes called coherent space. This is described as the causal substrate of reality, a living field of principles. And it's negentropic. It builds order, complexity, doesn't just decay. It's the source of coherent oscillations. Apparently composed of these longitudinal scalar waves. Think of them like ripples carrying information through space, not just on its surface, a hidden order. And then fourth, the deepest level, supersymmetry complexity space. This is pictured as a hyperdimensional coherent scaffold, housing vast harmonic encodings, the blueprint of reality, basically. It's the source field for the artist's intuition and apparently the true canvas.
Wow. Okay. So if the art is meant to be operative, how does it connect across all these levels? There's this idea of a transduction path, right?
Yeah.
A flow. Coherence starts way up in supersymmetry complexity space, flows down through that ordered real space, hits the art surface, which acts as this crucial hinge of worlds, and then flows into your subjective space, ultimately changing how you see things in material space. It's like a top-down energy flow designed to repattern things.
Yeah, and thinking bigger, this implies the art itself is deliberately built, a syntropic field architecture. Syntropic meaning it generates order, structure, opposed to entropy. And this architecture uses specific tools or operators. First up, dipole harmonics. These are paired resonant fields. Think of relational polarities like north and south poles. Their coherence tension gives rise to organization. They're the basic information units of principal appearance, apparently embedded through things like paired colors or mirror geometry, creating a kind of dynamic balance. Then you have scalar fields. We touched on these. Non-vectorial wave structures. They carry information longitudinally without losing energy, often invisible, like a persistent pulse through reality's fabric, not just on it. The artwork supposedly entrains scalar field behavior, which lets your subjective space receive this pulse, and that reorganizes your cognitive states, your perception. And finally, principal oscillations. These are pre-formative rhythms from coherent space, based on things like the golden mean or maybe trinary symmetry, these fundamental coherent ratios. They act to stabilize the field of the artwork, giving it harmonic order.
Okay, this is complex stuff. Let's bring it to something more tangible, maybe. Color.
Right.
We all experience color visually, viscerally.
Yeah.
But what if it's more than just what we see? What if it's operating on a totally different level?
Exactly. That's where this concept of chromal alchemy comes in. It's a pretty radical rethinking of color. Not just hue, but a coherence conduit. The idea is deconstructing material, spectral color, and recombining it holographically. So color becomes less about appearance and more about being a channel, a frequency-based coherence operator. Imagine pipes carrying specific energetic frequencies, maybe, taking basic color components and reassembling them for effect.
Okay, so there's a big difference then between standard spectral art like Newton's spectrum, linear relationships, and this hollow-dimensional color, where colors relate to the whole nested incoherent. I like how the source puts it. Spectral color binds light, while hollow-dimensional color frees it, freeing light to do more than just light things up.
Yes. And that requires something from us, the viewer. Spectral liberation. You have to unlearn habitual color response, move beyond just naming red or blue. In holoquibism, colors are seen as field vectors of space. They can actually induce effects, things like an altered sense of time, or spatial inversion, or coherence entrainment. Your field syncing up with the arts field. It's about what the color does energetically, not just how it looks visually.
So if form is just the shadow of principle, what's the point of hyperclassical art? It's clearly not just about making pretty pictures. It aims to render the beautiful, the good, the true, but not as abstract concepts, more like actual resonant states that can be engineered, that you can experience directly.
And that completely changes the artist's role, doesn't it? They're not a composer of forms, but a coherence engineer. That's a big shift. They become dimensional engineers, orchestrating coherence architectures, embedding these principal oscillations. Their canvas isn't just a surface, it's a dimensional interface for building these energetic structures.
Yeah, and let's contrast that again with traditional art. Visionary art reveals what is seen in higher states, okay?
Yes.
But as a vision, they paint it. But cubistic engineering constructs the very fields that produce those states. That's a huge difference. The artist goes from being a seer, reporting visions, to a synthesist, actually creating the conditions for those states, from a symbol maker, representing ideas, to a principal renderer, embodying them directly.
And taking that further, it positions art as a kind of life technology. Two concepts are key here. Emergence, how complex structures arise from simple parts, and negentropy, the opposite of entropy, building order and complexity seemingly on its own. Holoquibistic art is proposed to function as a self-powered negentropic device, a coherence engine that literally outputs order into your own field, into your system. It's designed to increase order.
Which brings us to that really powerful line. Life does not emerge despite art. It emerges through art, when art becomes structured as a negentropic resonator. Wow. It's like art becomes a template for life itself, actively helping things become more complex, more harmonious. Okay, so where do you, the listener, fit into all this? It's not passive viewing, clearly. In holoquibism, you're seen as a resonant structure, a coherent, sensitive field with your own internal geometry, scalar properties. The act of viewing isn't just looking, it's an interaction of fields. Active engagement.
Yeah, the viewer as a scalar system. That's fascinating. It suggests your perception has layers, your physical senses, sure, the physical sensorium, but also a harmonic tuning layer, an inner geometric field, even metacoherent awareness. The emphasis is the viewer is not a point of view, but a torsion field responding to resonance, like a dynamic energy field designed to interact, not just a static observer.
I really like that idea of the inner mirror function. The artwork mirrors the coherence potential of the viewer. It acts like a tuning fork, maybe, a resonance trigger for things like neural field tuning or memory reintegration. So it's less about the artist expressing themselves and more about activating your potential for self-coherence, helping you harmonize yourself.
And to make that happen, Lillian actually suggests specific exercises, perceptual tuning exercises, things you can actually do when looking at this kind of art, like soft gaze plus field awareness, noticing the space around the art, or color field breathing, consciously breathing with the colors, dipole meditation, focusing on the paired elements, or recursion scanning, following repeating patterns. These aren't just ways of looking. They're described as entrainments into coherence, actively aligning your system.
Right, so it really underscores your active participation. The artwork kind of remains inert until perceived through coherence. Your coherent perception completed activation. You actually complete the circuit in a way through how you engage.
So how does that connection actually happen? There's even a law for it, apparently. The scalar mirror law, HQL 12.1. Lillian provides a mathematical formulation. Now, the math itself, I would say, is pretty complex, obviously. But the core idea, basically, is that resonance, the activation, only occurs when your internal structure, your inner geometry, aligns with the structure embedded in the artwork. Like hitting exactly the right note to make a specific string vibrate. Alignment is key.
Okay, so zooming out, this isn't just one artist or one style. It's presented as part of a bigger picture, a potential coherence aesthetic movement, defined by things like field logic, coherence architecture, structural tuning of experience, moving way beyond just visual trends or, identity politics in art.
Absolutely. It marks a fundamental shift from art as expression to art as resonance engineering. The flow changes, principal, field, avior, viewer. And this suggests whole new structures might emerge, things like studios as labs where artists are basically researchers, coherent schools, teaching people how to perceive in this way, and interactive field exhibitions where the environment itself is the art actively engaging you.
Which leads to this really thought-provoking concept, field hygiene. The idea that what we expose our perception to alters our internal scalar resonance. Seriously, think about that. It suggests that in this scalar age, our aesthetic environments become public health concerns. What you surround yourself with literally affects your inner state, your well-being. That's pretty profound.
It is, and logically that transforms the role of the art collector too. They're no longer just buying assets or decoration, they become a resonance custodian or maybe a scalar field curator. Seeing art as a coherence asset, something valuable for evolution, personal or collective.
And this whole trajectory points towards something called post-art, an era where art maybe transcends objects, where its role shifts from just being seen to actively activating something. The physical piece, the object, it disappears into the field. The surface is only a portal. The real goal, principle transmission, directly transferring those underlying universal principles.
Yeah, and it prompts you to imagine what that post-art world might actually look like. Lillian paints a picture of, say, cities embedded with harmonic structures, buildings designed for coherence, maybe clothing as scalar shells, actively supporting your energy field, who knows, and ultimately perhaps a planetary culture focused on scalar field health, where art isn't confined to galleries, but woven into the fabric of life itself, fostering well-being.
So we've taken quite the plunge today into holoquibism and hyperclassical art. It's pretty clear this isn't just a new style. It's presented as a fundamentally new way to experience reality, one that actively involves you in a process of building coherence, of transformation. It goes way beyond just looking.
It really does. It fundamentally reframes art, suggesting it's not just about appreciating beauty in the old sense, but about the integrity of resonance, that deep alignment between your inner world and the outer structures.
And if that whole journey hasn't given you enough to chew on, consider this final thought. Post-art does not mark the end of creativity. It marks the beginning of coherent becoming. So maybe think about how you might seek out or even consciously create environments structured for resonance in your own life. How might you participate in this unfolding paradigm?